What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now today I have the third episode for this transfer talks sort of series on the channel, that is, consisting of just debunking things football related, sharing my opinion on the players and transfers, explaining why they might have been bought by certain clubs and maybe even how they'll be used in the squads. I also reckon that, just like I said last time, incorporating a lot of people's favourite game in FIFA would be, it'd add a nice little twist to it. Especially seeing as, they've released the card designs and there's a lot of talks about FIFA 21 now with the release trailer coming very shortly. This series, as you'll probably know already now, will follow on through the FIFA cycle, as will the Team of the Week and promo predictions, player reviews and whatnot. And so just before we get on with this actual video, very quickly, please do me a massive favour if you will, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also, if you were to share this video and even possibly the channel with your mates, that'd be much appreciated. All this support goes a long way with this channel, and I really want to grow it as fast as I can. And that's one of the best ways to do so. With that all been said, we'll get on with the actual video now. First up for this episode, we do have a swap deal, a pretty interesting one that has been at the good old rumour mills for quite some time now. Specifically, after knowing Jorginho clearly isn't part of Lampard's rebuild plans. It's really not Lampard's intentions to actually use him, at least not very much. And De Ligt, the Dutch centre-half, been pretty young and promisingly bright as a player, currently being coached under Sarri. This has mostly amounted from the sheer truths to how much Jorginho is valued by Sarri. They just, I don't know, they must have some sort of relationship that just works in football, and that's gone all the way from like his Napoli days and most recently the Chelsea days, of course. The move would be huge, of course, and it would certainly reach the headlines, especially acknowledging the fact that Chelsea are in dire need for a new centre-back in their team, and the deal would likely entail the swap deal plus maybe some added funds and probably bonuses on both sides. It would be very interesting to see this because obviously on one side you have a young player who's only recently signed to a new club, and then the other way around you have Jorginho, who's of good age, probably in his prime, but he's just not really quick enough for the Premier League. For the next screen, as we move on, we do have Thomas Partey as one of Arsenal's very likely exchanges this summer, provided that they can amount the funds for Atletico, to help them with the repayments for Alvaro Morata and whoever else. And with Partey being a pretty solid age with plentiful first team experience, and to complement what's been a pretty good season, I did give him a neat little +2 overall on his card to make him look even better. Something no one will really be complaining about. And then beside him in Rashford, who is arguably the biggest talk for this video, because it's again a pretty big deal. Of course, he has been in the headlines for a few weeks now, in and even outside of football. And once again, with PSG reportedly inquiring over the 22-year-old, interested in taking him to France sometime soon. And whilst I reckon he'll most likely stay at United, as I imagine him just been really loyal to the club and staying there, especially seeing as he's, come through the ranks at United. Obviously, this headline is the fact that it's a huge club and they're getting involved with a pretty big player in terms of how many people know him and basically what potential he has in terms of world football and what effect he can have. And so it's always worth a mention, just the fact that, you can actually discuss this, as it's quite interesting, where a young player may just take the opportunity to guarantee team success, get a couple of medals, some silverware. Of course, that with PSG is very likely. Maybe stat pad a little bit, do you some favours. Maybe then your agent will be asking for a bit more money. And it's a nice bit of experience as well. So, it's quite interesting. But of course, moving for big money is something that a lot of football fans, including myself, don't really like. And a lot of people actually despise it, in fact. On to the next couple of players in Matteo Guendouzi and Jesse Lingard. Two interesting players. We'll start with the Frenchman, having, a pretty solid imprint in what little success Arsenal have had this season. And yet somehow it's likely that he won't really be staying at the club, as it's reported that he has a lot of attitude issues, and following a handful of incidents in recent months, Arteta, as his manager, has actually mentioned that the 21-year-old needs to learn humility and carry out a level of sportsmanship that we can all get behind. But having said that, he does look like a promising player on and off the ball, and would probably be a loss in terms of squad depth and quality for the future for the London side, especially as he's young and he's an international. And has proven his devotion for the sport and seemingly for his club, as he's very emotional in game. If you watch a couple of situations where he's maybe starting fights or has just been really aggressive, or is passionate when he gets an assist or a goal, I don't know, but you get those sort of players, and to be honest, I kind of like it, as much as maybe he shouldn't be as aggressive with, opponents, and saying stuff like, I earn more than you. It's kind of questionable, especially when he's not even right. And with Jesse Lingard, as a completely different story, I have to say, where the England international has been made a laughingstock for the running. For the running joke about his age, claiming that he's younger than what he actually is, and saying that he's only young, he has plenty of years to get better. And of course, he's not as young as it's made out. And following his only good spell in the last few years been his few goals in the World Cup, which were decent, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely not enough to be a starter player, especially for a club as big as Man United. And the midfielder would probably be looking to bag some game time elsewhere, provided that, in this instance, West Ham remain in the Premier League and are willing to secure some new signings. We could actually see this transfer becoming a real thing come next season, and it would be quite interesting to see how he plays. I think he'd be taking the place of maybe like Lanzini or so, maybe as a rotational player. Definitely be pretty interesting, and I guess we just have to see. For the fourth screen today, I did opt to cover some of the more potential moves for Victor Osimhen, currently of Lille in the Ligue 1, with both moves to Tottenham Hotspurs and Napoli of the Serie A. The Nigerian does look bright and very quick considering his size, I have to say, and whilst only proving himself in the Ligue 1, which is not the hugest thing, we could actually see this potential star move clubs this window. Headlines suggest it's likely one of either Napoli of the Serie A, in what could be a pretty solid team around him, and the same with Tottenham, only I can't imagine he'd fit into a side where there's a fully fit Harry Kane, so it's definitely just within question, and I thought I'd cover it just in case you have, anything that you know about it, which that goes for any of these transfers. If you know a little bit more than I do, maybe something new comes out that maybe I've not read just yet, make sure to comment down below. I'm always ready to learn, especially when it's about football. For the fifth screen I have for you all today, it consists of none other than a potential swap deal, again with Chelsea, but this time with Atletico Madrid, for both their shot stoppers, in an exchange worth up to 110-115 million euros roughly, by both ends, especially with Kepa's market value, plus maybe some money to bring Oblak to England on a permanent basis. And I'm quite on the fence with this one. On one hand, nabbing yourself easily the best goalkeeper in the world at the moment, definitely the best in his position, it's hard to pass up on it. However, in the space of 3 seasons, that's nearing 200 million euros just on the 2 goalkeepers, and with no promise that either will actually hold up to the price tags. It's definitely a tricky situation, and benefits for Atletico would be that they get this young keeper who they can kind of bring up as their own, and if this deal can be struck, then it will 100% involve Kepa, with both keepers going either way. Otherwise it really won't happen. Might I mention the possibility of Kepa going to Valencia, like I said, but this time instead of obviously a permanent move, it'd be a 2-year loan deal, and if they can sign a replacement this window, whether it be like Onana or anyone else like Rumours or something, that would be quite interesting. And as a third option, possibly there's a couple of links with a certain German goalkeeper in the La Liga as well, in Ter Stegen, which would equally be as mind-blowing as Jan Oblak, no doubt. Now, there has been some crazy headlines, rumours and suspicions this month or so, even in this video alone, but to end it off with lastly the next and final screen we have today, with Nathan Ake as a double up, as you can see, maintaining a running theme for this series so far, of both Man City and Chelsea really hunting to retrieve a competent centre-half to add to their arsenal of players, of course. Both sides are in dire need of reinforcements, especially for the back line, looking for candidates to potentially snap up for this summer, and both having the funds to do so would really help with signing somebody like Nathan Ake. And Chelsea, they refused to activate Ake's roughly 30 million buyback clause as reported last window, but making it pretty easy money for Bournemouth if they just decide, yeah, we'll let him go. Obviously, Ake can be trusted at Chelsea because that's where he was beforehand, and the buyout clause would be a lot cheaper than any other team, whilst the other teams in the running would kind of have to amount to a potential extra like 20 odd million to get him, the exact same player, and that's not including the wages. Again, I'm on the fence with this, though I am open to it. Nothing worse than selling, a player for cheap and then repurchasing them for more than what you actually sold them for. It's kind of bad business, but also if it's a really good player, and it kind of depends on your situation, whether you're so desperate for a player or not, it can kind of be justified. Anyways, as exciting of all that is, we don't have all day, and I have covered what's relevant for today's video, So if you are new and you haven't subscribed already, like I said before, make sure you do that and click the notifications bell so you're ahead of the pack to watch these videos, especially if you're really loving the content at the moment. And I hope you did enjoy it, and I guess I'll see you in my next video. Peace.